just kind of a little bit about myself here today, because I loved it yesterday when Maudie gave a little bit of a pedigree. So I did work at American Angus for 30 years, and in 17 of those, I worked with their PVP or Process Verified program, which was Angus Source and Angus Link. And then I also worked 13 years there as marketing. So I've kind of got both sides a little bit of that spectrum. I still farm and ranch with my family in Northwest Missouri. And so, you know, I love cattle and I love to work with cattle. I grew up milking and doing a few things like that. So to just kind of give you a little bit about that. So I know there's lots of questions about what is authentic Wagyu. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions actually. But first and foremost, just like certified Angus beef, authentic Wagyu is a marketing program. It is a marketing program to help each and every one of you that are American Wagyu Association members market your beef, okay? That is what it was developed for. So there's an authentic Wagyu umbrella. Under that umbrella is actually two programs. One is a certified program, which is a G162 specification. The other is a process verified program. And I know several people are probably going to say, why in the heck did you do two? Well, it was by accident, I guarantee you. So we started out with the process verified program. As we're trying to get the process verified program off the ground, Jerry and I are headed up to do the USDA audit, and the packing plant calls and says, hey, you know how you told us we were gonna get back like what the marbling score is? Like all I'm getting back is their prime. And when we wrote the PVP, one of the minimum quality standards was they need to be prime moderately abundant. So I need to get back that they grade 800 for marbling. And that was not the case. So all we got back was it was prime. And we had talked to Chad and that group, and they had said, yes, you'll get that back. So we're pivoting pretty quickly because we're going into the USDA audit the next day. And we're like, hey, we've got a problem here. We're not getting back the information we need. And so it was so funny because you know how the stars always line up in your world? Well, the stars were lining up in our world that day because our USDA auditor was getting audited that day by his supervisor, who used to be in charge of meat grading. And he's like, well, that's not a problem. All you got to do is write a certified program so that you can get back if it's 800 or not. Jerry and I are scratching our head pretty quick going, well, how fast is that going to take? Like, is it going to take forever? And he's like, oh no. He goes, that didn't take long at all. So that night, he and I sat in the motel room. We write up this program for certified G162, send it off to our friends at USDA. They make a few edits, send it back and go, will this work for you? And it's kind of down and dirty, but it got us through the USDA audit so we could pass and get our USDA process verified program on board. So that's why you actually have two under an authentic Wagyu umbrella. So the G162 was kind of an accident or a gift from God, however you want to put that, because that's how I referred to it to Jerry that day, because you know what? It gives us more options. And if you guys are farmers like me or ranchers, I need options, because never once have I went to go fix anything that I had it actually go together the way it should. You've always got to have baling wire and duct tape to get it to work, or I do anyhow. So that's how we came up with two different programs today. So we know that Authentic Wagyu is an American Wagyu Association program for you farmers and ranchers today. It's a grassroots initiative that your board of directors has helped put together for you. It is associated with a minimum quality grade, and that is 800 marbling, okay? That is prime, moderately abundant. That's the base. That was the base. And I realize you guys have marbling that is way above that. You guys have really premium product. But guess what? For a marketing program, you're making a big bucket. You're not going to sit there and try to catch everything in that. So you make a big bucket to start out with, and then you can start narrowing up. Have you ever built a house or a barn? Well, I'll put it this way. I've never built a house. I've always built barns because we always need more room for cattle and equipment, right? Have you ever built a barn that was big enough? Because I never have. You always find that you need more room, right? So you can always kind of go down, but you really can't ever go up. And anyway, I've not found that you can. So it is a grassroots program. I really wish this thing automatically advanced. It'd be way easier. So we have had a very notable milestone. And I'm going to talk about that first because I look at it this way. If you don't know what you can achieve, do you really care about the nuts and bolts? Because you got to know what you can get at the end of the day. Whenever you go to buy a car, do you sit there and read the specs about the truck first? I probably don't. I go and look at the truck first, right? So, notable milestone, September the 8th, Vermont Packing House labeled the first certified authentic Wagyu. Okay? I think that was a great, great day. That's a bunch of smiling faces in that, and that product became available on an e-commerce site and has already sold out, just so you guys are all aware. Again, that met the live animal spec as well as the authentic Wagyu label being placed on that. So it was in the news. There was a great job and a great push put out for media. And you know what? Just like we've talked about with EPDs, if you don't measure things, how do you know if it works, right? So, off of this person's e-commerce site, this was about 9:30 in the morning. All of those little light-colored blue were new customers looking at her site. Dark blue were returning customers looking at her site. Wouldn't you love to have that many new customers looking at a time? I'd be pretty darn excited, I won't lie. So this is later in the day. This is around news time that night. You can still see this darn map's lit up like a Christmas tree. Heavens to Betsy, I'll tell you what. That looks pretty nice to me. So if we look at that on a linear graph and over the whole day, you're going to see that around 9:30, 9:15 it maybe say, I don't know, I'm going to call it 9:30 today for my estimation. At 9:30 when those first news releases went out, that spike in that, okay? Then throughout the day, you know, as the news kind of dwindled off there a little bit and we start in for the evening newscasts and different things that had reached out, you can definitely see another huge spike. At around 6:30, she turned this off from recording. Again, if you're like I am, you want to know what's the impact. So if you look from the day before so if you compare September the 7th to September the 8th, you can see there was a 448% increase in traffic to that site, okay? Now, what's important to y'all? Is it people looking or is it people buying? Buying. She saw a 20% increase in sales. Buying works for me. So let's just do some math for fun because I kind of like to do math every now and again, just because I like Hannah and all those kind of nerdy kind of people. I like numbers too. And so I like numbers though that have money and dollars in front of them a lot more. And so if you let's just put it this way. Let's just say if she sold $1,000 every day from the day before, okay, every day she'd sold only $1,000 of meat, but this 20% started. So that adds $52 more. So if you do, I think it's 52, let me double check here. If you just do that, yeah, that's right. If you do $52 more, that wound up to being $54,000 a year if you did it on just 5 business days. That's kind of nice, isn't it? Wouldn't you like $54,000 more in your pocket? I kind of would. I don't have a problem with that. So I think that kind of demonstrates, and of course, this is one person, and this was the absolute first that we got labeled, right? So there's lots more tests to be had. No different than genomics. You've got to keep testing. But it was definitely a first time, and I was really excited to see that. Because here's why. That e-commerce site is actually a very popular e-commerce site. And so to just have one market disruptor of the authentic Wagyu label on there, change that much, was pretty darn amazing to me. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but for me to watch that was really amazing for one market disruptor of one label. Okay? So, how can you get the authentic Wagyu label on your meat? I know everybody kind of wants to know. And I've heard people make comments, oh, it's so darn hard to do. Oh my God. Well, number one, you haven't called me yet because it is not that difficult to do, I guarantee you. Now, if you want to go through the PVP program, there is a little bit more paperwork than the certified program. And I'll tell you why. The PVP program, and I'm going to get into more details here later, is all those animals have to be born on your place, and you've got to tag them before they leave, and so we're tracking them from gate to plate, okay? The certified program, we're still going to know where those animals come from because you as a producer are going to put those on a show list. But if you're buying animals and you know that they're out of registered Wagyu and we can figure all that out, okay, we can put those on a show list and then we can work with that packer, okay? And that is what's going to get them in the certified program because they are out of a registered Wagyu, bull or female or whatever. Now, here is one of the differences. In the process verified program, and I'll show you this here in a little bit later, we do have different medallions that show if they're full blood, pure blood, or F1. In the certified program, we do not have that, okay? It is a generic medallion and we do not delineate whether they're full blood, pure blood, and that is why I say this is a marketing program and that certified program is the big bucket. The PVP is what individual ranchers that are probably vertically integrated and not buying any feeder calves are going to probably do. But you could easily do the certified program too, don't get me wrong. You could do either if you are, a small producer or a large producer. But the certified program is written more for that larger purchasing feeder calves option that are Wagyu because they're not born on their farmer ranch and they may not have gotten tagged before they left the ranch of origin because that is a requirement for the USDA PVP program, okay? So to get started with all of this, we have to first decide which program is the best for you. Now, once we kind of figure that out, we really probably need to figure out one thing more, is if your plant is a remote or has an in-person grader. We've heard a lot about remote grading, in-person grading, and the panel before. Oh my gosh, I cannot give those guys enough kudos. They did a fabulous job. And I heard it more than once. Small plants usually do not have grading. Everybody has inspection pretty well because you need inspection. Grading is a voluntary service. And you can see on here too, I put on here where the Authentic Wagyu program fits in this. So it is the upper 3 levels of prime, okay? I can't wait until we add 2 more levels of prime. I really can't. And I know there are people that get frustrated and they go, well, I'd do it if there was more levels of prime. Well, we're working on that. So we need to get more people in it so that we can all be singing the same song. Because if Jerry and I spend any more time with USDA, they're probably going to put us on their payroll. So, we're really trying to work with them to get some of these things done because we know it's going to benefit you. Okay, so we need to make sure that they are a graded plant. Just because your plant does inspection does not mean they do grading. So we need to make sure they're a graded plant. And just so you all know, and if there's a packer or harvest facility in here, I am not dicing on you, okay? I really am not. But this is the biggest issue, is the packing facility being a graded plant or being willing to be a graded plant, okay? It costs money. It slows down their chain speeds. They are not getting extra money from you to do that. They may charge you a little bit for the grade, but they are not getting the money it takes to slow them down. That is the key there. They're not dying to put a grade on your beef for that reason. I'll just be frank with you. So, be nice. Give them a little swag. Go give them a free steak once in a while. I don't care what you do, but be nice to them, and they will probably be a little bit more accommodating to be a remote grade facility, okay? So I'll go through here again a little bit of the differences in the two programs. Like I said, with the G162 spec, that is more of the big bucket program. Producers are going to pay a $2 a head fee to put them on the show list, okay? Then the packer or processing plant, whichever way we want to call that, is going to pay a $5 fee per carcass, okay? One, that's going to be a little bit of income for AWA, but more importantly, it is a way to track the number of carcasses through there, which is going to go through into more of an integrity program. One of the things, and this is, as I said, you know, I worked at American Angus for many years, so we're going to have a little certified Angus beef lesson, because I know everybody said, hey, that was the blueprint. Yeah, probably was. So when I started at the association was in 1989. In that boardroom, that very month I started, they were deciding whether or not certified Angus beef was even going to stay alive. It was 10 years after the first pound was sold. It was draining the association financially. I can tell you, when I was hired, if I'd tell you what my salary was, you would flip your pants. I'm guaranteeing you right now. Because those people had not had a raise, and we did not continue to get any type of a raise for 3 to 4 years after that. Things were not really pretty in that building, okay? And certified Angus beef was running out of a home in Ohio, out of the garage, okay? So just all know that that was 10 years in. It wasn't exactly roses and butterflies, if you will, in those first 10 years. Well, it wasn't roses and butterflies for several years even after that. But know that it's not easy to get these things up and going. And you guys are further ahead already than that in a way, because you've got such outstanding product. One of the other things is, and we're all aware, all the meat that goes into certified Angus beef is a black hide. How many of you know, I mean, I'm sure you guys all realize certified Angus Prime rolled out here a few years ago. Do you really think that's all Angus? Do you think that could be a little bit of black Wagyu running in there? I'll guarantee you it is, okay? So, because they don't have that specification to say they have to be out of a registered Angus bull. Now, I will tell you, the program I ran of Angus Source and Angus Link did, and if they were a black-nosed Charolais, that I could show you that they used a registered Angus bull, even those white smoked calves went in there. But we knew those were out of a registered Angus bull, because all this other stuff that was off of black hide, yeah, who knew what it was off of, okay? It only says they can't have a Brahman hump, and they can't be a dairy cross look. Well, we all know that's probably a little bit fictitious as well. So, I'm not trying to dice on them at all. That's not what that was about. It was more to tell you that, you know, it's just not an easy road. And there are a lot of things, because I've heard lots of things go, oh, truth in real labeling. Okay, let's have a little contest. I've got on blue jeans, right? I've got on Kimes blue jeans. If I put on the label, I have blue jeans. Am I lying? Is that not truth in labeling? It is truthful, because I have on blue jeans. I don't have to say what my brand is or what my percentage is. It doesn't mean I'm not truthful. It just means I'm not as specific. And we all know marketing is what you want to twist it to be. And when I say that, we don't want people twisting our Wagyu name. We don't want that. We want the integrity of our Wagyu name to stand out and to be truthful. And that doesn't mean that we have to sit there and go, well, that's 100% and that's 20% and this is whatever. We want that Wagyu name to be the integrity. We want your name on that to be that integrity. Okay? And that's where I go with that in marketing. Is we can make marketing what we want, but we need to make really, really, really darn sure that our integrity stays intact. Because at the end of the day, when I look in the mirror, that's what I look at. Did I do the best job I could for you? Did I do the best to be a good person today? Did I not do the very best I could do? Because that's important to me. I'll probably pre-apologize. I am blunt, and wherever Ray Jr. is in here, you know what? Thank you. Thank you last night. You did a great thing. So you told me what, and did not get frustrated with me because I am a little thick. I am from the show me state, and you have to show me what you're saying. So I do applaud him because he continued to tell me what the problem was that he was not trying to understand. So if you have questions, I do always say, come and don't get too frustrated with me because I am from Missouri and I am a little slow some days. So the Process Verified program, again, that is an easy to track. We're going to tag those animals at birth with an RFID tag. They get enrolled at the ranch. We're also going to work with the feed yard, and we're going to deliver them to a packing plant with a certificate that links them to those RFID tags, to those certificates all the way through. The PVP program is actually very easy and easy to track. And USDA has us going to the plants to train the plants. We have a DNA traceability portion of that. They have to go to the plant to train the plant how to cut a piece of meat off. So with that program, actually, I think it's a little bit overkill, but that's what USDA kind of alluded to us that we had to do to get that one up and going. So that's what we did so that we could show them. And again, that's what I did at Angus. And just so you know, everybody at previously, because when we wrote that in 2005, every PVP program was supposed to go on site to do those enrollments. And we convinced USDA we could do it over the phone and do just as good a job. So I've always been on that cutting edge of working with USDA to show them that there's better ways to do things. Because again, that's what farmers and ranchers do, right? So we're going to do a TSU. It is going to go to the DNA Traceback Lab for the traceability on the Process Verified program. So if you're thinking about your calves going into the PVP, do not send your TSU into Hannah or Neogen. We're going to send it to the DNA Traceback Lab because it's going to get you all of those things. And that's included in the price. And the Process Verified program, I know, hold on to your pants, it is $50 a head. It is more expensive. And that's why I've told you, you can still do the certified program. So those are the things, because we have to go on site to the processing plant. I also have to be audited by USDA every year. In the certified program, USDA will audit the plants and verify the paperwork there. So it's not costing the association, because the association is extending the license. When we license the plants on the G162, we're extending the license to that plant. So they're going to get the audit from USDA. Okay? So that's some of those differences. I don't know why I say I've got to have this so I can tell you where I'm at, but darn it. All right, earlier I talked a little bit of the PVP and the different medallions that go on there. So we've got the 100% for the full blood. That would go kind of there in the middle. Notice on this label, the PVP shield in the middle, that's how you know which program it is. And I've had people ask that too. They're like, well, the labels look the same. Yeah, they kind of do, but no, they don't. Because they've got the PVP shield on them for the PVP program, okay? And the medallion, you can use a generic. And here's the deal. If you choose to use, the full blood, the pure blood, and if you've got both, you're going to print labels for both, okay? Whereas if you're using the generic medallion, you're just printing one label and you're kind of rolling on. Okay, so one of the other things, and I've kind of heard this multiple times around. So let's just say you sign up for the Authentic program and they go in there and the calves do not meet the 800 marbling spec. Do they lose being Wagyu? Does the Wagyu fall out of them? Nah, it doesn't. If you've always used here, I can see this guy's, he's got Wagyu feeders. No, he's got Booth Creek on his thing. Sorry, I can't read worth a hoot. So he's got Booth Creek on his shirt. So let's just say this dude took his stuff in there and it did not meet Authentic. Does that mean you can't put Booth Creek still on it? Booth Creek Wagyu? Nope, he's already got a label. He can slap that right on there. It doesn't mean just because it didn't meet the 800 marbling spec, they lost out on being Wagyu. So here's the other thing. If you're going to let's just say we're a big plant. I'll pick on Jordan just for fun. Let's say we're Snake River, and Snake River's doing all their USDA grading and stuff, and it goes through there, and it doesn't meet the 800 spec. There's like 4 other Wagyu programs that are certified programs, and I know they've got their own, so I'm just picking on him for fun. So he could literally slap one of those certified program labels on there. Again, it does not take away that they're Wagyu, okay? So that's one of the important things to remember is it doesn't take that away from them. So as I've said, find the harvest facility. You guys can go online and see if your harvest facility, because the other day somebody had asked, how do I know if my harvest facility's there? So I picked up this slide. You can actually just type in remote grade. Right now there's 67 plants. This young lady, if you want to give this lady's number to your packing plant, they're not going to talk to you and say, yeah, you can get your plant to be remote graded. She will talk to your plant and set that up. I will tell you this, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks depending upon your location. They are based out of around Grand Island. So if you're around Grand Island, Nebraska, it's a heck of a lot shorter than if you're based in Sacramento, California, let's just say, okay? So, again, we were kind of talking about eating experience, prime. I don't even know why I had this one on there. It was probably a transition. I don't know. We're talking about integrity here a minute ago. Sorry, I get off track every now and again. So, integrity throughout the chain. Everybody's always asking me, how are we going to know that it's really Wagyu? How do we know that they're not going to put something else on there? Again, as I said, we are going to get that producer agreement. We are going to work with those licensed packers. They are audited again by USDA. Okay, the other day somebody talked about education, and that's exactly, so we're going to know where that goes to when it gets to a large enough deal. If it's not on a local e-commerce site or something and it's going out to other restaurants, we want to educate them. We want to educate them on what is authentic Wagyu. And the reason for that is another little story here. I'm always full of stories. My son loves to go out and eat. He loves to go to really nice restaurants. We went through Atlanta, and I stopped in Atlanta, and I said, the only thing I've got to say is I want to pick a really nice restaurant with Wagyu. So we stopped, and I ate that. I'll be truthful, I'd never eat Wagyu again after I ate that Wagyu. It was horrible. I asked the people where it came from. They swore to me it came from certified Angus beef. They were way confused. And I was like, people, I work for both. I have worked at both ends. I know that it's not true. But my point is with that is education, who talked about it the other day. You are right. Food service needs education, and even more education. And so that is what this program will provide as we get authentic Wagyu up and going and move that through the chain. And again, that goes back to integrity, because I sure as heck don't want anybody telling the next guy that they got Wagyu from certified Angus beef. That's just wrong. So this label's a little bit different, isn't it? Aiming for authentic Wagyu. Anybody want to take a guess on what this label's used for? Okay, I'm going to tell you real quickly. It is for if you're going to be selling bulls or animals walking that are Wagyu. And here's why. If you're going to use the authentic Wagyu label on your sale catalog, That's actually for meat products, okay? And if you're using that on your bull, you're more or less guaranteeing that all those animals out of that bull are going to meet authentic Wagyu. And that may or may not be true. Well, Hannah's really good, and she could probably put together some of those EPD numbers and go, they probably could, but who knows, right? So this aiming for is what we're going to use on walking animals to advertise them. And we'll have a little blurb up on the website as well, because this is also going to help educate people what is authentic Wagyu, okay? So branding and logo use are very important. And why that is very important is because the AWA is never going to own cattle. They're never going to own your cattle, but they do own the authentic Wagyu brand that they are extending to you that license to use and market your cattle and put marketing dollars behind that. That is how this brand will grow. Does anybody really know why certified Angus beef was started? Do you know how low registrations were in the 1975s? Very, very, very low. Angus registrations were at an all-time low, and you can go Google that or look at any chart you want. Certified Angus beef was started, and the mission was to increase registrations of Angus bulls. Because that is really one of the reasons why this program will benefit each of you so well. Why is the popularity at those bull sales so high? Because everybody wants a certified Angus beef. You can't go buy a certified Angus beef tag for your calves. They have to beat that on the rail. And that's exactly why these minimum standards were put on here for authentic Wagyu as well. We're going to meet that on the rail. We're going to put those marketing dollars behind it. And it's going to increase your bull sales. It's going to increase your beef sales. And if you think it's going to happen overnight, I am so sorry. I'll give you Kleenexes now because it's not going to happen overnight. We're all going to have to work together to make that happen. Each and every one of us. Because if we don't pull together to make it happen, and we've got all these people out here griping and growling and all that stuff, what does that do to your breed and your brand? It pulls you apart. You're a family. If you've got a family that's working together, and you've got, God only knows we've all got farming and ranching families. I live with mine. I work with my brother and my nephew and my mother and my son. So it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to work with them. There's days I'd like to knock my brother right between the eyes each and every day. I won't lie to you. There's days I just, but you know what? I know underneath you love them, right? And you've built all this together, and you want it to succeed, and you want it to work, and you put that effort into it to do that. You put that effort in there each and every day to make that work. So that's what this logo and branding is going to do for you all. So right here, just like this, you can sell it with your butcher beef before they're harvested. Then your labels are going to go on it. You can put it on your bull sale catalog. You can put it on your website if you've got bulls for sale. But that's what the aiming for authentic Wagyu is. Here was that G162 label option. Notice that there is not that PVP in there. All right, I know I'm getting a little lengthy, and I'm sorry I spewed through that kind of fast. I will be around here, and I will take some questions. I don't know how long here, but we'll take questions if you've got some for me. Yes, sir.
How come there's no grading? If you have to grade this animal, how come there's no grading on the label?
The question is why is there no grading on the animal or on the label? So the reason for that is one, the minimum is 800. What if your animal grades 1200? That's right. And you know what? If you want to put that as a side label on there, I don't give a hoot. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't give a hoot. But we're making a minimum claim here. The minimum is 800. So if you want in here, it's got to meet 800. But let's just say, I don't know, she may be from Booth Creek, I don't know. But let's just say this young lady, she had some as well, and hers didn't. Again, I'm trying to make that big bucket for marketing to authentic Wagyu. I'm not telling you can't put it on there. I mean, if you'll notice, okay, did you notice there is producer on there? Hang on a second. I challenge you. I'll challenge anybody in this room. Go find me another certified program that lets the producer put their name on it. I will pay you, because there's not. They don't even want them to know where it comes from, much less the grading. And that is the one thing I will tell you that I had issues with, and I know all the commercial people that I worked with at American Angus had issues with, because they were very proud, just like I'm very proud. I do raise commercial Angus, and I take them to a feedlot. I sure as heck don't get my name on anything. But you know what? That feed yard guy knows me. And I'll tell you this, just for laughter, I even get 800s out of mine, but I'm not putting them in. I actually text Jerry one day and I go, hey, could I get a reg paper to get a little more money? And I was just laughing with him, don't get me wrong. But that's the point is, Angus is getting up there. And so it is minimum. They don't meet it real well, but that's why we need those other levels of prime. And that's really why you guys need this certified program. Because I'll tell you what, that stuff's going into other certified programs because they pay. Right now, just to get certified Angus beef, the last time I looked, it was right at $375 premium to get a certified Angus beef carcass in there, on top of what it was. Is there other questions? Sorry.
So I have a couple questions, and I guess...
Only give me one at a time. I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, I know. So I guess the first question will just be, with the certified Angus beef, is it true that that's 51% Angus to meet that minimum threshold?
No, read the spec.
Okay.
The spec does not say that it has to be Angus. The spec says it has to be black-hided or registered, or, keyword, or registered with the American Angus Association, the sire.
Okay.
Because it cannot have white behind the midline. I don't know, can't have a Brahman hump, but just Google certified Angus beef G1 spec. You can read them. They're all on the website.
Okay. Is there any other certified programs out there, not the Wagyu one that we're talking about today, but aside from the certified Angus beef, the CAB?
There's like over 96 Angus certified programs. There I know are 4 Wagyu programs. There are 2 Hereford programs. Yeah, we're 162. Again, Google certified programs. Go look through them. Now, I will tell you this, we are the only Wagyu program with a minimum standard spec that is listed.
Okay, so I was asking some of those questions as clarifications or to try to get out there. I know there's been a lot of confusion with all the different terms when it comes to grading, when it comes to this, when it comes to truth and labeling. And I know that there's many different producers here that have different programs. We have producers that are F1 producers. We have producers that are seed stocks. To those F1 producers, we have producers that are full blood,
Right.
genetics only. We have producers that are full blood, genetics, and pasture to plate. And so I guess I was just trying to see how many different other things that are in our world. So for example, our farm's a very small farm. We specialize in full blood Wagyu. We specialize in a consumer direct-to-product retail in an area where Wagyu is not very well known. Mm-hmm. The list of questions we will get would blow your mind at how many crazy things they are.
However, I have a butcher beef business. Yeah. I doubt that you've not had one. I don't know. But keep going.
But we started with registered Angus. We switched to full blood Wagyu. We run technically 4 different product labels in our small herd of just 200 head of cattle. And some of that goes to the different eating experiences that are out there. And there's some of it that when we get into the marbling, when we get into the numbers, when we get into the fineness, there are overlaps between the levels of an Angus, registered Angus, whatever, can hit a lower end of a percentage Wagyu.
Yep.
Lower end of a full blood can hit an upper level of an American percentage, whether it's 50, 75,
yep.
Wagyu. We see it in our own herd.
Yep.
And I think some of the questions out there have been, or even some of the panel before has been, those different eating experiences. You can have somebody eat a Wagyu that is Wagyu because it's a percentage product, or maybe it's a low-end full blood or whatever, and get a bad experience. But if we set these thresholds, so I guess my question is, when Authentic Wagyu was pitched 2 years ago in San Antonio, there was a lot of questions, there was a panel, there was a board. It seemed like this was something that was going to be going alongside the branding and the marketing of our companies that we all have, because like the previous panel said, there was no marketing. They had to create these labels for their own brand. They had to do all these different things because nothing existed back then. But this seems to be something completely different where our labels go away. Yes, we get our name on there as a producer, but it's not something that goes alongside our label, and it's something that's completely different. Is that correct?
FSIS would not approve that
Yeah.
many different labels with Authentic Wagyu on it. And the other thing is frankly, I don't want to sit there and submit that many labels to them, okay? And I will tell you this, A, I was not there to hear what was said, okay, number one. Number two, what is able to be done through USDA and what the vision was, I can tell you during the time that I came, was a wee bit different, okay? There's things you can and cannot do. And like I said, I swear USDA and FSIS should pay Jerry and I to be on their deal. Because I can safely tell you, FSIS's confusion about labels for breed characteristics is huge, huge. I don't want to really throw anybody under the bus, but when they met with us, there was product getting a Wagyu label that was not from Wagyu. It was not a Wagyu product, okay? So again, what was touted whenever, there are things you can and cannot do, just like with the cameras that they were talking about. You know, there are things you can and cannot do. And so, you know, if there was some misconception about how that was, I apologize. But at the end of the day, we had to do what we could get through to put this label on here to start this marketing program for each of you in this room.
And I guess my question is too, is how, so we're a small producer with a small butcher. Our butcher is USDA graded.
Perfect.
But I mean, USDA inspected, not graded. Sorry.
Talk to him.
When
Give
I
him
look,
some swag.
when I look at the remote grading, there's only one butcher in the state of Virginia where we're at that is remote graded, and it's not ours. We have an MIJ camera.
Doesn't
They
count.
scan all of our carcasses and they do all that, which is just getting them to do that is the biggest hurdle. And like, it's not even easy to that.
Again, you're
But-
going to have to talk to them about becoming remote grade. That's not a negotiable. That is not negotiable.
But that's what I'm saying, is that our first step to get into this program
Yes.
as a small producer?
Yes, that is your first step because that is a non-negotiable. We have to have a USDA grade for a certified program and for the PVP. I mean, I have had multiple people come to me and say, hey, this is just really hard. Can you get rid of the grading? No, cannot. That is your minimum standard. That is what sets you apart. That is what's that consistent quality eating experience. And for somebody not to say, you know, because again, look at certified Angus beef. It's upper two-thirds choice. There are many other Angus programs out there that are lower. You know, again, that goes back to the fact that that's not a great eating experience, and that's why certified Angus beef's logo is the one that is sought. Because it is a minimum quality standard. I know I'm getting X. It's no different than me buying this pair of jeans. I know that fit. I can go and buy those, and I know they fit. I can't go buy, I'll be frank with you, I can't go buy Wranglers. They're thick in the thighs, and I'm a fat girl. It just doesn't work. Okay? So, yeah, it's a minimum quality, so you know what you're getting. There's a young lady back here in my favorite cheetah print, because I like cheetah print.
Well, being married to a butcher for over 25 years, I can tell you how to negotiate with them.
Good.
Pay a little more. He's like, time is money. They want every steak wrapped singly. They want 1 pound packages. and it does cost more in paper, and it does take more time. I said, charge more, and now he's happy to do any of it.
That's right. That's why I said, I am not dicing on the facilities. I will say that every day. And you know what? I work with, like I said, I've got a little butcher beef business too, and I work with a facility. And I give them things. I give them tips. You know what? They work their butt off. I wouldn't want to be back there freezing my fanny off cutting up meat. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll freeze up pulling a calf or whatever or that. But I don't want to be back there every day freezing, cutting meat. That's just me. Okay, one more question.
You had a label up there that had 46%
Yes, sir.
Wagyu. I thought an F1 was the minimum that we could register a Wagyu.
I'm going to let him talk to that one.
That would be utilizing a purebred sire. That's why you see that lower than 50%. Okay. And I think, just to clarify, in order to get a program up and running, and this is why Ginette gave you the history of certified Angus beef, that didn't happen overnight. And this one isn't going to either. And it all boils down to critical mass. And if you don't have enough product, you can't keep a label alive. And that's what happened in the late 70s for the Angus people, and it's happening for us as we speak. If we don't get product and don't get enough in Ginette's big bucket, we can't even keep our own label alive. So you got to start somewhere. I understand the frustration in the room that we need to better define and characterize upper level prime. We heard from our USDA friends, and they challenged us to help them. And trust me, it is on the top of my to-do list after this convention, is to address that. We need your input as well.
Yes.
And we're going to work on that immediately after this convention, because I think that will solve, eventually, that will solve some of this frustration that I'm hearing. Because you don't want generic Wagyu out there and poor eating experiences, but we have to start somewhere in order to reach this critical mass that we need to keep the label alive. Once we get that going, then we can graduate, just like the template. The template is certified Angus beef. I don't want to keep talking about it, but that road has already been created. And if we follow the road, the path that's already cut, it's going to be a lot easier for us, and we'll do it a lot quicker. But they didn't introduce CAB Prime until much later into the program. So we'll have to do pretty much the same thing. And I don't want to speak for you, but
No,
I think that's where we're at.
And I'm going to put out one more thing that Jerry's talked about, and I talked to Derek and Chad about that. And I'm going to throw this out there. And so I'll be frank with you, if you want some help writing what you put on the RFI, contact Jerry or I. But the other thing is this darn 30-month rule. I'm going to tell y'all, I'm not real happy about 30 months when it comes to Wagyu stuff. Y'all don't feed them any different, and put that on that RFI as well, because that is just baloney in my book, that you've got to bone those out when, maybe they're 31 and 32 months. So, we've kind of been past BSE for a while. You're not sending them to the EU. If you're getting NHTC there, that'll be a no-go. But frankly, that's something that needs to go on there too. Because you know what? If we don't tell them what we need to market better, they're not going to read your mind, and they've already put their stuff in place. And guess what? I mean, some of them are out there with cattle, don't get me wrong, and they realize that. But they've got to work with the people on up the chain, and at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to work with them if they don't know. So give them your 37 cents. It doesn't cost you a darn thing.
And I'll add that what Ginette and I have found, I thought, coming into this position, I thought USDA was difficult to work with. But we have found that if we can give them logic, they will respond to that. And I think that's all we really need to do. But we're going to have to do it in mass. So again, we're going to reach out to all of you folks that have input and want to be a part of that. So go ahead. Here, let's get the microphone up here.
Either that or here, if you want to stand here,
Is the $50 charge, does that include registration of that animal? Because if not, it's gonna be $90 for registration plus the program.
So I'll tell, hang on, I gotta hook a little handle back up here. So you don't have to register that until after 2030, just so you're aware. Like, that's part of that live animal spec deal. So you can still do affidavit up till 2030.
But the terminal animal doesn't have to be
That's
registered.
right, but
Yeah.
the terminal animal does not have to be registered anyway,
Right.
ever. I refer over here because I'm gonna be truthful with you. I don't know every AWA rule
Yeah,
for
we're not
registration.
requiring a carcass to be registered. Is that your
what I
question?
thought.
Okay.
But in 2030, is it gonna cost me $90
I don't think so.
to keep my animal in this program? The registration plus the $40?
No. No,
For the PVP, I don't think so.
The animal hanging there doesn't have to have a registration.
Yeah. But the bull has to be registered, and that's why I just want to make sure we're on board. The bull that sired the animal or the female that sired the animal does need to be registered. The $50 is going for the TSU or the DNA test. You are going to buy an RFID tag. That's on you to buy. And that is paying for me to go train the processor one time and for the DNA traceback lab to go train the processor how to take a sample. That's what the $50 is for. And I'll be truthful with you, it ain't gonna cover it. But that's for the process verified program. It's frankly, again, that's why I kind of still push the certified program. Because one, that puts the cost on USDA to audit the licensee that we've worked with. It's gonna be a much cheaper deal to do the certified program, not only for you, but for the association. There is a guy with a question. Well, I don't know how much more time you want to take, Jerry. I'm sure.
My comment is you guys are on the right track there on the deal, but when we have our 60 days to talk to them, and I've been telling these other people here, we don't want to send them 100 arrows. We need to send them some missiles. So the collaboration is the more of a group, let's say maybe Kansas has a group, maybe Texas has. If you guys go that way, because Chad happens to live down the road from me. He also happens to be a member that I met in San Antonio when this thing was kicking off, and I have an appreciation. I also happen to work for the USDA as a federal meat inspector as an intermittent. So they make me work, or they ask me to work, and I can if I want to. So I've had an appreciation of exactly how this government works. But we need, and Chad is, like I said, he's basically told me, we need groups, so we don't have 100 opinions. We need to get it in 3 or 4 got it together stories. I mean, that's a big deal. That's 60 days. That's our lifeline, folks.
We hear you. Thank you for the input, though.
I
Yep.
agree.
Sheila, you
Sheila
got
had a
one last
question.
thing?
So first of all, thank you both, Jerry and Ginette, because I know you've worked very hard on this program, many long nights, a lot of emails back and forth. When we launched this a couple of weeks ago, I found out like 3 days before, we were the first facility to actually draw up the label. The label had been trademarked, had been developed, and then I get a call from my packing house and saying, what do you want on the label? Well, I'm there, I think it's pretty much a certified program and there's limits to what I can do. And they said, well, you have room for your Vermont Wagyu logo on that label, and you have room to put a QR code back to whatever, the AWA website or to Vermont Wagyu. And then I said, well, we have to check in. And then Ginette said, no, you're limited to product of Vermont or produced by Vermont Wagyu, and that's it. And you can imagine I wasn't too terribly happy about that. Ginette got a middle of the night phone call. Jerry got one too. And fortunately, I have a direct link. So we went back and forth on that, and I ended up putting just Vermont Wagyu. I was in a good position because all our product comes in a nicely branded box that says Vermont Wagyu all over it. But I was concerned about what our customers would think when they saw this product and got confused potentially, is this really Vermont Wagyu's product? We had a strong name, and which was going to be more effective, the authentic Wagyu or the Vermont Wagyu product with no logo on it. Well, you saw the data. I was shocked when I saw all those people coming to our website, and even more shocked when it got aired on the local TV station serendipitously. And I was very surprised to see a lot of new users, people that had never seen Vermont Wagyu before, coming and looking at it and wondering what this was all about. And now I have empty freezers, which is a wonderful problem to have. And would I take the authentic Wagyu label with no Vermont Wagyu logo on it versus our old label? And I can tell you, I like the empty freezers better. So thank you very much.
Thank
you, Sheila.
And I'm going to say this to Sheila as well. And I've told her this, and I'll tell you all. You know what? Once we get enough people in here and we see what the changes, okay, she called me to tell me I don't have beef bacon on the list. Okay, I've never butchered beef bacon in my life. Yes, I know there's some things that need updated. But we need enough people to do this so that I can go back to FSIS and make those changes all at one time. Because just like the young man in the back said, you don't want to bombard them with 100 things 100 times. So you know what? The more you guys that can get in this and get going, and I know you're going to be frustrated with me, hey, I don't really care, get over it, I'll get over it. But we're going to collect all that stuff, and then we'll fix it all kind of in about a few months and make those changes. Because again, I'm not going to call them every day, but we're going to fix those things as we get them all compiled together. So guess what? It was my first stab. Is it perfect? Heck no, I know it's not perfect, but we've got to work to get it to be closer to perfect. It'll never be perfect for 20 years.
Let's thank Johnette for her efforts today.
I need my computer, sorry.